So today I'm going to show you how to make a granny square. I should have brought this open in the first place. Granny squares are super cute. This is a tote bag I made entirely out of granny squares. In this sort of granny square situation, I've used 3 different yarns. So in between each round, I had to cut the yarn and weave the tail in. Today, I have a different yarn, and it's already variegated into different colors. It's a little bit of a mess, but forgive her. She's beautiful. And I just go straight through this to make a shirt. Makes one short sleeve top, and I love it. So that's what I'm going to use this for, and I'm not going to switch out my yarn as I go. Instead, I'm just going to chain up to the next round. Makes it quick and easy. So if you get one big thing of yarn, you can do that and you just keep going. But if you want this different color look, you have to weave in your ends every time, which is a little bit time consuming, but this is more of the classic granny square look. This I do because it's quick and I'm a little lazy. So, you know, that's what you do. So here's my knot. So to begin, you got chain 3 times. And then you bring it around through this first loop you made, hook it through and pull through. And you make like a little donut. See, it's a little circle. And what you're gonna do, I should have put a bigger tail on this. You want a long tail, particularly when you're making a larger granny square, because it shows you one side of your granny square, and as you keep going, you have to flip it in between each row to prevent it from getting warped. So here's this, making a granny square. All right, so I made my donut again. First thing you do is you just chain out 3. And that's how you get your distance away from the donut so you can do your double crochets. So then you begin by doing a double crochet stitch right into the center of that donut. And you do 2 of them. Whoop. That's also a nice thing about crochet. You can always catch your loop and put it back on. Knitting, not so forgiving. So 3 stitches together, you might see it referred on a pattern as a granny stitch. So then you chain 1, and you do 3 more double crochets right in the center of that donut. If you don't know what a double crochet is, I have a double crochet video. Just made it. Oops. Usually I'm not this slobby. I'm a little more elegant, but it's the end of the day. You know, it's tomorrow's the beginning of break. Forgive me. So I have 2 granny stitches. So each time I'm just doing a group of 3, and then I chain in between. 3 granny stitches. Ha ha ha. See? And there's a chain in between. I chain. So you're going to do 4 granny stitches total around this donut. And then I chain, and then once you have 4, it's hard to tell because they all kind of cluster together. Whoop. You go into that initial corner where you started, slip stitch them together, so you hook it through, pull it through, and then chain. So normally this is where you would do another color and you'd weave in your end. Since I'm not switching out of this yarn, I'm just going to do another granny. So I'm flipping it, and I'm going to do 3 granny stitches, or 3 double crochets, I'm sorry. So it's my chain, 2 stitches, then I do this, and then in the corners like this, you're going to chain and do 3 double crochets. So it's 2 granny stitches per corner. This is what grows your granny square and makes it bigger. The yarn is fighting me, so I have to pull it out. A lot of crocheting is just pulling your yarn so you have more length to work with. All right, so then you chain 1, and then you do 2 more granny stitches with a chain in between on the corner. I'm going to need feedback on this tutorial. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly. So there's my granny stitch, 3 double crochets, 1 chain, 3 double crochets. And you just have to look, where I'm putting it in is where I chained earlier. So then I have 3, and oop, there's my chain. I almost put it in the wrong spot. Wow, way to go, Miss L. I mean, it'd be hard to notice if I did this early in the game. Granny squares are super forgiving, which is another nice thing about them. Chain, do another granny stitch in the corner, so there's 2. Girl, this cake. Did I not pull from the center? Ugh. I'm gonna have to undo this and start again later. All right. That was just my end. I was like, I want to get in on this. And you don't want that. You want it hanging out so you can leave it in later. And as you can see, I'm making a little square. I'm telling you, this cake and my other cake that I had, a thick chunk of yarn like this is called a cake. The other cake I had was way more cooperative. I'm just saying. And then you stitch it together. So I just pull my stitch through, chain 1, 2, 3. As you go out further, you're now going to have this space in between, and you do a granny stitch there. So you're not just doing it on the corners. And what happens is as it gets bigger, you're just doing more granny stitches. You'll also notice I flipped it again to keep it from getting warped and wiggly. And as you get bigger and get out further, in between your corners, so help me with this yarn. I'm gonna be switching. I'm gonna frog this whole thing. Frogging is when you undo what you've done and just start over. Or you undo a section. So when you're in the corners and it's bigger, you do 2 chains. And then another granny stitch. So that's the only difference as it gets bigger, is you have this middle section, which as you can see, I'm creating more gaps as I make these sections. So those areas will also get a granny stitch hanging off of them, like right here. And then the corners have 2 chains in them. All right, this thing, it's just sending me. And when you, in between these sections, before you go to the corner stitch, there's another chain. And also, ideally, when you're pulling from a cake, you want to start with the strand that's at the center. I thought this strand was the center, but it's the outside. So that's why I'm going to frog this and start again at the center. Because then you pull out and the cake keeps its shape and it's all nice, and this one deceived me. So I'm going to frog it and start over. Which is also kind of satisfying in its own way. And that is a granny square. Boop. Back to yarn. Alright, so hopefully that helped. If not, I'll make a better video. Bye. This is me waving.